Yeah, and we have these political parties chanting, I mean, you've seen this, you've reported on this, chanting, kill the boer, kill the farmer, to a stadium filled with people. And it's not just rhetoric. So they would say, no, it's just a metaphor. But it's preceded by a speech about how white people are criminals and should be treated like criminals, how everything they have is illegitimate and stolen, in which people are encouraged to go and invade their farms and so forth. And then they chant, kill the boer, kill the farmer, and they make these hand gestures. Of course, the boer is a reference to the Afrikaner people. But the reality is also that the farmers are being attacked and killed on their farm.
Oh, this is Ernst Roets being interviewed by Tucker Carlson. I don't know how to describe him. He likes to describe himself as a conservative. Some people, they refer to him as a right-wing commentator. He worked for the right-wing TV station in Fox News, if you ever watched that. Yeah, and Ernst Roets is, I believe he was part of Solidarity and Afriforum as well. I don't know if he's still there. But nonetheless, I like to call him the merchant of the Swart Gevaar. That some Afrikaner people, they still espouse in South Africa, that look at black people as the Swart Gevaar, as dangerous people. So in this video, I want to react to some of the stuff that he was saying on the Tucker Carlson show, some of the lies that he was peddling, some of the exaggerations that he was peddling on that particular show. So let's check out some of the stuff that he said and let's react to those.
African term called Ubuntu, which means brotherliness, or it's about your internal humanity. It's a Zulu term. And the theory goes that white people are incapable of having Ubuntu. But Ubuntu is the essence of humanity. So if you don't have it, you're not truly human. So it boils down, the logical conclusion is that if you kill a white person, then you did not actually commit murder. So this is not widely believed in South Africa, but this is taught at universities by university professors, and it's certainly believed by radical elements.
It's a predicate for genocide. I mean, it's always the same in we're watching in parts of the world now, they're not fully human, right? So we can kill them because they're fully human. Then it's of course a grave sin to kill them.
That comment that Ernst and Tucker Carlson are making, I think it's a very dangerous one. It's a very dangerous one because for somebody who lacks insight and somebody who lacks nuance, it may be ingrained in their minds that what Tucker and what Ernst Roets are saying there is that white people in South Africa are under attack, and that the justification of this attack is because of supposedly white people, they lack this principle of humanity, Ubuntu, so to speak. And I think it's something that it's worth mentioning, because the interviewer, Tucker Carlson, you already know where he stands. You can see, even at the end of that clip, he's saying that this is a predication, it's a predicate for genocide. And if you lack nuance, and if you're getting your news or your information from people like Tucker Carlson, and what the Ernst Roets is the merchant of the Swart Gevaar that he is, because that's what I call him. He's a merchant of the Swart Gevaar. He's selling this thing to the world that the Swart Gevaar, white people are in danger in South Africa and all that. If you lack nuance and all that, truly I can see why other people who are less informed, they will believe something like that. You know, some other white South Africans within South Africa, they might believe that they're under attack. People out there in the world, they might believe. Tucker's got a huge audience, millions and millions of people, not only in America, but worldwide. And Ernst is leveraging that influence of Tucker Carlson because he cares to listen, you know, in terms of what's happening in South Africa and all of that. So yes, there's no genocide in South Africa. White people are not under attack in South Africa, particularly the Afrikaner and all those type of things. And even if those people have mentioned those things, you and I as South Africans will struggle to find who are those people who said, except for the issues of when the I think it was Afriforum and Solidarity, they've taken EFF to court regarding Dubuli Punu, song that they were singing.
Yeah, and we have these political parties chanting. I mean, you've seen this, you've reported on this, chanting "kill the Boer, kill the farmer" to a stadium filled with people. And it's not just rhetoric. So they would say, no, it's just a metaphor. But it's preceded by a speech about how white people are criminals and should be treated like criminals, how everything they have is illegitimate and stolen, in which people are encouraged to go and invade their farms and so forth. And then they chant, "kill the Boer, kill the farmer," and they make these hand gestures. Of course, the Boer is a reference to the Afrikaner people. But the reality is also that the farmers are being attacked and killed on their farms. So it's not...
I think you'll find a lot of people in South Africa, black and white, that will say... somebody like Julius Malema singing Dubuli Bunu, a song that is helpful in any shape or form. And South Africans are civilized enough, particularly black South Africans, to know that him singing that song is not a call for people to go and murder other people. And by the way, when you talk about farm matters, the part that has been elevated the most has always been the farm owners, most predominantly happens to be Afrikaners. Nothing's been said about the farm workers, for that matter, who are being killed on the farms. And South Africa doesn't have an issue of farm matters, as it were. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm not saying it hasn't happened. And I'm not saying one farmer or farm worker being killed, it's not so bad. One person who dies on the farm is one too many. But South Africa has got a problem of crime. South Africa has got a problem of morality in terms of how we treat each other as a people. South Africa is a crime-ridden country. And it's not a black and white issue. It's not a case of black people against white people or white people against black people. We do not have a problem like that. We're having a crime problem in South Africa. And the likes of Ernst and others for that matter, they like to put on a scale or on a hierarchy the importance of which life is more important. Ernst is not worried about people being killed in South Africa, as it were. He's only concerned about the Afrikaner people being killed in South Africa. So these are the type of people I often say that they want to be in South Africa, but they don't want to be part of South Africa. If Ernst was sitting there with Tucker and say, we got a crime problem in South Africa, both black people and white people are being killed in South Africa. To race-based politics and rhetoric, he starts talking about white people. And that's what Tucker likes. It's like white people are under attack. Yeah, this is not the person who stands for South Africa. He's just worried about his people that looks like him, that speaks like him, and that holds sort of similar values. Other people doesn't care about and all of that. So just wanted to make that point as well. Like we just need to be aware what type of person that we're dealing with here, and the type of narrative and lies, I dare say, that he's selling to the world, that black people in South Africa are very dangerous towards white Afrikaner people. And he may deny that, but that's the message, the kind of message that he is perpetuating with this particular interview and other things that he has done before.
Well, not only doesn't it exist, you're not allowed to complain about it existing.
Yes, yes.
It's somehow a moral crime to notice and to not like it when people are murdered for the color of their skin.
It's bizarre. It's
well, it's not bizarre. They're telegraphing genocidal intent when they're telling you, no, you're not getting killed, and yes, it's a good thing that you are.
Yes, and no, you're not getting killed.
What are they saying?
Yeah, it's no, you're not getting killed, and if you are, you deserve it.
Right.
Because of a variety of things, because the attackers are poor, or because remember all the horrible things that white people have done in South Africa and outside of South Africa. So there's always a justification.
I've never had anybody stand on a platform, so to speak, and not to say they don't exist. Maybe somebody of great importance or somebody of influence saying, hey, Afrikaners, you're not supposed to complain about the farm matters, and that you guys deserve to be killed because of the people, the perpetrators, particularly talking about black people here, that they come from a disadvantaged background. Therefore, it's okay. I'm yet to hear that. And when Tucker Carlson mentioned things like people being murdered because of the color of their skin, and because Ernst is not telling the truth in terms of the issue of crime in South Africa, the stereotype is going to be perpetuated that whenever if a white person, particularly a white African farmer who's being killed, is being killed because he's white. And he's not correcting that. Obviously, he agrees with it. And that's the part that really very disappointing about somebody like Ernst Roets, somebody who's so highly educated and things like that. And I can't remember who's this professor from either University of the North or Free State who did a research of what happens in terms of the farm matters, and he was interviewing these people who were arrested and all that. And a lot of them, whenever they been interviewed, they explain that it's a money thing, it's a thievery thing, lack of morals and all this type of things. It's not so much that somebody is white that, okay, I feel like I need to murder a white person, and it makes the stereotype like we are, as black people, senseless people, animals, savages that we kill for pleasure and all this type of things. And I do not know, maybe part of it is informed by some other white South Africans, Afrikaners to be in particular, other Afrikaners, not all of them, by the way, that because of they know what they did under apartheid, maybe they always feeling this thing of these people could just rise up on us and take revenge on us because of what we did to them. And their fear is not founded on anything, for that matter. I remember hearing this particular a couple, white Afrikaner, and they were talking about how when Mandela dies, their lives will be in danger in South Africa. They believe that the only reason they are still in South Africa or they are safe in South Africa is because Mandela is still alive. Black people will listen to Mandela, but as soon as Mandela dies, their lives will be in danger. I couldn't understand for the life of me, why would they believe something like that? And you can see it probably is what they talk about in their inner circles and all of that. And maybe this fear is being sold to them and they have internalized it, that in South Africa, we are in danger. Our lives are in danger. These people, what we did to them, what if they turn against us and do what we did to them, now that they have the power and all of that?
And if you listen to the more radical parties to the left of them, they openly chant about killing white people. So they say these things out loud. And now there are obviously more to the fringe. You find the more extreme rhetoric in South Africa, but it's very alarming and how people just rush to their defense all the time.
I think all of us, we need to be very careful whenever we're trying to drive a certain point home, that we use the most of extreme of examples in order to drive a certain point home. I think it applies to all of us. And you can see even here, he's clutching at straws, talking about the most radical, the most extreme left and all of that. And I know Tucker likes this type of thing, whereby he's talking about the most extreme of things, and as if they are the norm, that as if there's some of the things that are happening during the course of people's lives in South Africa, for that matter. So I think that's very, very key that I bring that out. And think of an example, like I think most of us will remember the story last year of these farm owners who killed 2 black women and they fed them to the pigs. And if you were to take that particular example as the example of what white Afrikaner farmers people are like in South Africa, definitely you'll go out and hate them, so to speak. But that's an extreme example. Do you find majority of the white Afrikaner people doing that? And you wouldn't even find a lot of times people like Ernst and others, they go to the ground whenever things like this have happened, instead of coming out and condemning it with the contempt that it deserves at that moment. They don't, and the opposite is true as well. Whenever it happens, somebody on the other side does something, we need to come out and condemn that, to show that we are not represent those people. They don't represent who we are, including themselves. whenever somebody does something as heinous as that.
One former judge recently said this, who's retired. He said that we have a choice in South Africa between a moral system that is dysfunctional, which is the current system, or an immoral system that is a functional one, which is the former system. And so the problem is, if you criticize what's happening in South Africa now, you get accused of wanting to return to the apartheid.
I've often found it very interesting when people are nostalgic about apartheid. So you hear Ernst there quoting a retired judge who's saying that we have a choice of having a moral system, that is democracy that we have today, that is dysfunctional, or an immoral system that was functional. And a lot of times you'll hear it's not by chance whenever they're talking about the previous system. They do not want to call it what it is, apartheid. Because I think that very word, it pierces them to their very heart. And when you hear somebody say that a system that is immoral but it was functional. Functional for who? Functional for them. Because it worked for them, it enriched them, it advanced their culture, it advanced them as a people, it gave them opportunities. So whenever they say apartheid was better, or it was an immoral system, but it was functional for them. There's no apartheid that was functional for black people. Even this very system that we have today, imperfect as it is, nobody in their right mind would want to say, I want to go back to apartheid, including the very Afrikaner. The Afrikaner have gotten more richer under this system. Afrikaner have advanced more under the system of democracy than they were under apartheid, even though apartheid gave them all the advantages they could ever dream of as a people. So sometimes very interesting that people are talking about a functional system, that apartheid was so functional. Yes, functional for you, while other people were oppressed. So keep that in mind. Even that retired judge, I don't know how many people that he sentenced during his time on the bench, whoever that judge is, and using the apartheid laws, which were horrible for black people. And somebody's still nostalgic about that. So we need to be wary and careful of those people. That's why whenever Ernst has been accused that he wants to go back to the days of apartheid, he's defensive. He doesn't want to do that. But if you read in between the lines, the insinuation is always there that at least that system worked. And it worked for white people, not for black people, not for everyone else.
That system. We want to govern ourselves. We want freedom. But it seems that a lot of people are incapable of making that conclusion or leaving any room for saying that.
When people are nostalgic about apartheid. So you hear Ernst there quoting a retired judge who's saying that we have a choice of having a moral system, that is democracy that we have today, that is dysfunctional, or an immoral system that was functional. And a lot of times you'll hear it's not by chance whenever they're talking about the previous system. They do not want to call it what it is, apartheid. Because I think that very word, it pierces them to their very heart. And when you hear somebody say that a system that is immoral but it was functional. Functional for who? Functional for them. Because it worked for them, it enriched them, it advanced their culture, it advanced them as a people, it gave them opportunities. So whenever they say apartheid was better, or it was an immoral system, but it was functional for them. There's no apartheid that was functional for black people. Even this very system that we have today, imperfect as it is, nobody in their right mind would want to say, I want to go back to apartheid, including the very Afrikaner. The Afrikaner have gotten more richer under this system. Afrikaner have advanced more under the system of democracy than they were under apartheid, even though apartheid gave them all the advantages they could ever dream of as a people. So sometimes very interesting that people are talking about a functional system, that apartheid was so functional. Yes, functional for you, while other people were oppressed. So keep that in mind. Even that retired judge, I don't know how many people that he sentenced during his time on the bench, whoever that judge is, and using the apartheid laws, which were horrible for black people. And somebody's still nostalgic about that. So we need to be wary and careful of those people. That's why whenever Ernst has been accused that he wants to go back to the days of apartheid, he's defensive. He doesn't want to do that. But if you read in between the lines, the insinuation is always there that at least that system worked. And it worked for white people, not for black people, not for everyone else.
A system that is much more decentralized, a system in which the various nations who live in South Africa, because South Africa is very big, it's almost as big as Europe, the various nations living in South Africa should just govern themselves. And that's not what's happening in South Africa. And I think it's a worthy cause to pursue.
Want to be in South Africa, the land, the geographical area, but they do not want to be part of South Africa in terms of governance. And that's why you hear him talking about South Africa is made up of different nations. And I'm using nations here in connotations, in that the success in inverted commas of apartheid was to get people to be separated. If you know anything about South African history, we had what we call homelands, where the Xhosa people were staying in a particular geographical area, whereby the Tsonga people were staying in a geographical area, the Zulu people were in a specific geographical area, the Tswana people, and so on and so forth. Mainly being the white people being separated away from all these people and all of that. So when you think of what he's saying, that we want to govern ourselves, we want freedom, the perception in somebody's mind could simply be that the people in South Africa are oppressed, and particularly white people in South Africa are oppressed. They want freedom. They just want to live on their own peacefully somewhere there where they do not bother anyone, where they should not be bothered by anyone. And that's what Ernst is advocating for. That's what he's agitating for. That's the end game, if you think about it. Carve out a space for Afrikaner people to stay somewhere else, in a so-called enclave, so to speak, whereby they are not part of this country, but they are in this country, so to speak. The abolition of apartheid was not for people to be separated. Even if we live together, even if we are in each other's spaces and all those things, there's no way you lose your culture of who you are because of you're mixing up with other people. So they want a separate development for themselves. That's his mission.
South Africa, there are basically two big white populations in South Africa historically. Mm-hmm. They're what we're called the Boers, the Afrikaners, mm-hmm. who were basically religious refugees. Yes. A mixture of Dutch and French Huguenots, Protestant Dutch, Protestant French, who moved to Southern Africa for reasons of religious liberty. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then you had the English, who I think were, after the Boer War, in power.
Yes.
Who mostly were there for economic reasons and had, in many cases, passports back to Great Britain. And then you had a couple of different African black groups, mm-hmm. the largest of which I think is, to this day, are the Zulus.
Yes.
Who, like the Afrikaners, the Boers, and the English, were not native to the area at all. They were newcomers who arrived, I think, just right before the Boers did.
Yeah, not long before.
Okay, this is all true?
Arrived. Yes.
Telling history as accurate as possible, I think, is very, very important. And I think Ernst has got the responsibility to correct Tucker there, man. I don't know why I keep on saying Carter. Tucker Carlson, there in terms of these two groups and the time of arrival in South Africa. The Bantu migration, there's these people now called the Zulu people. At some point in time, the migration, I think it started somewhere in Central West Africa, somewhere there. And this thing is being started, I think, about 5 millennia ago, almost 5,000 years ago. And I think they only arrived in the southern tip of South Africa around 300 AD. Now, when Tucker says, the Afrikaner arrived not so long after the Zulu people have arrived, it insinuates that like these people almost arrived at the same time. But that is not the case. The Afrikaner, the Dutch, they arrived around 1652. That's when Jan van Riebeeck landed in South Africa. So I think we need to put that into perspective. It's almost like now both of us arrived and there it was, so to speak. I think it's very important that we sort out that aspect of history there. That's why the black people of this country, they consider themselves the natives of this land as well. But that is not to take away from the original people who are from here, the Khoisan people. So both of these people have arrived, but the Afrikaner were the Johnny come late, so to speak. But that doesn't mean that this is not their country, they don't deserve to stay here or things like that.
So Orania is a cultural community. It's an Afrikaner cultural community. It's fairly small. It's about 3,000 people, but it's growing rapidly. It's growing by about 12 to 15% per year. And the idea is it's a culture, it's privately owned. It's a community where the Afrikaner culture can survive and flourish. And it has been growing at quite a pace, even though it's from a small base. But the idea is to say this is an area where we are the majority. And we make our own decisions. We make our own laws. We govern ourselves. We make our own decisions in terms of what happens with our tax money, what happens, with our streets, what type of monuments.
Do you murder other people or oppress other people?
So listen to that. Ernst explaining what Orania is and what it is. And great. But the key words for me there is that it's a place where African people can survive. And the main thing there is that the Afrikaans people are about to be exterminated. Afrikaans people are about to be killed. Afrikaans people are about to be wiped out. And it might seem like a small thing what he's saying. And those are his beliefs, Ernst Roets, that the people that look like him, who speak the same language from cultural background as him, they are under attack in South Africa. So it calls Orania a place where Afrikaner people are there so that they can be able to survive this onslaught that is coming from black people in South Africa, from these savages that is black people in South Africa. So this notion again of the Swart Gevaar that Ernst Roets and others, they've been a merchant of, they've been selling this thing, they've been promoting it, and there's no doubt in my mind that they do believe it as well. In spite of everything else that they say. And it's no wonder when Tucker Carlson says, do they murder people there? Like that's a civilized society in South Africa. And other people in inverted commas, particularly black people, are the ones who are doing the murdering. And hence Orania exists. Or hence Orania is an example of how Afrikaners want to live in South Africa. Like I said it before, even Orania, they want to be in this land, but they don't want to be part of this country. So, yeah.
You began this segment of the conversation by saying the current scheme, the current arrangement is not going to work.
Yep.
I think most people, certainly I as an outsider, instinctively kind of want it to work.
Well, it's a good story. It sounds like
It's a good story. Yeah, it is. I mean, I'll admit to being kind of a dopey liberal in some ways. I really prefer the idea of, people living together in harmony. I just feel that way. I can't help it. Maybe that's my Enlightenment legacy or something. I also think you should deal with reality, and I definitely don't think you should be allowed to kill people because of the way they look, period.
Actually, that's a little bit surprising that Carlson himself, he wants this thing to work. That is the democracy project, that is South Africa. But sitting across somebody who stays in South Africa, who's a South African, who doesn't believe that it will work. And yeah, it's so disheartening sometimes. And I think whenever most of us, it's easy for us to identify what the problem is, but we do not want to become part of the solution of what the solutions are. Because usually the solutions they're asking, they're demanding of us to do something, and it's going to require a lot of hard work on our side and time and dedication to make the project South Africa to work, to be what we envisage it to be. And I don't think anybody is naive to think that from 94 to today, everything will be where everything is perfect, and not to excuse the wrongs that have been done in the last 30 years. I think they need to be brought they need to be brought forward and be exposed and be called out what they are. But I think also, because somebody like Ernst has already made up his mind that he doesn't want this thing to work, I do not expect him to give solutions in terms of accept that, leave us alone, give us a little place somewhere else out there, and we're going to make it work ourselves. And that's the whole strategy of this thing, as I see it.
How do you know it won't work? Like,
it's just the data. As I said, you can look at the levels of how crime is increasing, how unemployment is increasing, how government service delivery is increasingly failing, everything. I honestly, how health is deteriorating, everything except tax collection. That's one aspect of it. Another
Tucker is asking him, is there no other coalition that can run this thing? And I truly and honestly believe that there is. Even if at this point in time we do not see it, but it will rise up. And I think if 2024 election was anything to go by, South Africans, we come into the realization that it doesn't matter who leads what. What's important, if somebody who doesn't look like me, but they're able to offer a good service, levels of crime, hospitals working, schools, you name it, all of those things. Therefore, it doesn't matter whether they do not look like me. But at the end of the day, we are South African first. We need to put this country first. So Ernst is past the stage whereby he doesn't want it to work, so that he's able to have a justification of secluding himself and those that have the same belief as him, that they're better off there by themselves doing their own thing rather than working for the good of this country, this nation, this rainbow nation that was birthed in 1994. And if we were to listen to the merchants of the Swart Gevaar, like Ernst Roets and those that follow him, those that subscribe to his beliefs, therefore, there's no need for this country to succeed. And it will not succeed. And you and I wouldn't be able to put an effort to make this country a success. I'm saying this country is going to work. And I still believe in the majority of the people of this country. Black and white, whatever shade of color you are, that this country is going to work. Ours is to prove the prophets of doom like Ernst Roets and his followers that nothing will work in this country, that South Africa wouldn't be able to overcome what it is, what it needs to overcome to be a success, and South Africa will become successful. And I'm really hoping that many South Africans, they see his mission and the interview that he just had with Carter for what it is. The more you spread the bad news, the more you spread lies. There's a saying that a lie goes around the world or halfway around the world whilst the truth is still putting on its shoes. It's going to be difficult because those two, they got a big megaphone for the people to hear the truth. They're going to hear what is being spewed out by Tucker interviewing him and what he spews, his philosophy, his beliefs, and all those things. And I know there are many good white Afrikaner people who wants to make this country a success, who are working hard on a daily basis to make this country a success. And there's no genocide in South Africa. And there's no such thing as a Swart Gevaar in South Africa. Those things were the tactics that were used under the apartheid government. And unfortunately, some people, they're still hanging on to those as their beliefs. So I'd like to hear your guys' comments on this video. Might be a controversial one, but I truly and honestly believe that this is the truth of what South Africa is. And it could be better, and it's incumbent upon all of us to make it better. Please share your comments, what you think, what you agree, what you disagree with. And hope to see you guys on the next video. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.